The gun was raised in a fraction of a second, too fast for most eyes to properly register. It caught the light as it moved, polished and expensive, pointed with careless confidence at a man who did not step back, did not tense, did not blink. For a brief, suspended moment, it felt as though the entire park forgot how to breathe. Leaves drifted lazily through the air, caught between branches and gravity. Conversations dissolved mid-sentence. Footsteps halted. Somewhere nearby, a bird stopped singing, and the young man holding the weapon, grinning like this was all a private joke, had no idea that the quiet figure in front of him was already running calculations in his mind. Angles, distance, balance, reaction time, outcome, all measured with deadly clarity. No one screamed. No one rushed forward. Instinctively, people sensed that this was not a normal confrontation. The man in uniform did not behave like someone facing death. His posture was upright but relaxed, shoulders loose, feet grounded. His eyes were steady, unblinking. This stillness did not come from fear, came from mastery, from absolute control. He had lived through worse than this. Years earlier, chaos had been his daily reality. Explosions that shook the ground beneath him. Ambushes where survival depended on fractions of a second. Gunfire slicing through darkness, indistinguishable from silence until it was too late. Compared to those memories, this moment, this quiet autumn park with its golden trees and distant laughter, was almost surreal. And yet, danger was danger. Standing opposite him was a young man dressed in designer clothes, his arrogance as polished as the gold-colored pistol in his hand. The son of a powerful crime boss, a man who had grown up insulated by wealth, protected by reputation, never forced to face consequences. To him, the gun was not a tool of last resort, it was a symbol, a prop, a reminder that the world bent when he demanded it. Behind the soldier, a young veterinarian stood frozen in place. One hand gripped the leash of her German shepherd so tightly that her fingers ached, her knuckles drained of color. Her heart hammered against her chest, loud enough that she was sure everyone could hear it. Her eyes moved uncontrollably, from the gun to the man standing between her and it, back to the gun again. This wasn't how her evening was supposed to go. She had just finished a long shift at the clinic. 12 hours of surgeries, anxious owners, and difficult decisions. She was still wearing her work clothes, her hair pulled back without care. Her thoughts focused on nothing more dramatic than getting home, feeding her dog, and collapsing onto the couch. Violence had never entered her mind. Her dog sensed it before she did. Before the story continues, remember to like the video if you're enjoying it. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time. One small click makes a big difference. Share your thoughts in the comments. We truly appreciate your support. Now back to the story. The German shepherd's body stiffened as if a switch had been flipped. Muscles tightened beneath his coat. His ears snapped forward, locking onto the threat. His gaze fixed on the weapon with unblinking intensity. A low growl vibrated deep in his chest. It wasn't loud. It wasn't wild. It was controlled, deliberate, restrained. A warning rather than a challenge. The sound carried a clear message. Step wrong and I will act. The young man with the gun noticed the growl and laughed. He liked being watched, liked the tension, liked knowing that everyone around him was afraid. Relax, he said, flicking his wrist and casually waving the gun as though it were nothing more than a toy. I'm not here to shoot anyone. His smile widened. I just want to teach you something, he continued. You military guys think you own the world. He had no idea who he was speaking to. The Navy SEAL didn't respond immediately. He didn't argue, didn't insult, didn't threaten. He didn't raise his voice or harden his expression. Instead, his eyes moved once, just once, to the veterinarian, then to the dog, and then back to the gun. In that single glance was a promise. Without a word, his body shifted slightly, so subtly that most people wouldn't notice. But now he stood directly between the threat and the innocent lives behind him. A living barrier. The veterinarian swallowed hard, her breathing shallow and uneven. She had seen suffering before. Injured animals, broken bones, blood-soaked fur, pain that couldn't be spoken. But this fear was different. This fear hollowed her out, made her legs feel weak, her thoughts scatter like leaves in the wind. And yet, she trusted him. She didn't know why. She didn't know his name. But something about his presence felt immovable, unbreakable, like standing behind reinforced steel. Around them, people began to slowly retreat. No one wanted to be close anymore. Phones emerged from pockets, hands shaking as they recorded what many assumed would be another meaningless act of public violence. A tragedy unfolding in real time. The crime boss's son stepped closer. The barrel of the gun was now only inches from the SEAL's chest. "What?" he sneered. "You scared?" He leaned in slightly. "Say something." When the SEAL finally spoke, his voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Put the gun down," he said calmly. There was no anger in his tone, no emotion at all. "Not a request," he continued. "A fact." The young man chuckled, genuinely amused. He had grown up surrounded by power, money, influence, protection. No one ever told him no. No one ever stood in his way. Authority bent around him. No one until now. What he didn't understand, what no one in the park understood, was that he had already lost. Because the man standing before him wasn't reacting emotionally. He wasn't improvising. He was executing training ingrained over years. Training designed to end threats quickly, efficiently, and permanently. The smirk faded from the young man's face. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just a subtle shift. Something changed in the SEAL's eyes, and instinctively, the young man felt it before his mind caught up. The air grew heavy, pressurized, like the moment before a storm breaks. His laughter caught in his throat. Confusion flickered across his face, followed by irritation, then something unfamiliar. Doubt. "You think I'm a joke?" he growled, tightening his grip on the weapon. That was the moment he crossed the line. The SEAL moved. To an untrained eye, it was impossible to follow. One moment they were separated by a few feet. The next, that distance no longer existed. There was no gunshot, no warning. A sharp crack echoed through the park as the weapon was twisted violently from the young man's hand, slammed into the ground, and skidded across the pavement. The scream that followed was not one of anger. It was shock. Pain exploded through the young man's wrist and shoulder as his body was driven downward with surgical precision. Before anyone could react, the SEAL had him pinned to the ground, a knee pressed firmly into his chest, an arm locked behind his back in a hold that allowed no resistance. There was no rage in the SEAL's expression. No cruelty. Just control. "Don't move," he said quietly. The calmness of his voice was more terrifying than shouting. The park erupted into chaos. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone screamed. Phones shook violently as the scene transformed in seconds, from imminent danger to absolute dominance. The veterinarian stood motionless, tears streaming down her face. One hand covered her mouth as her body finally caught up with the fear she had been holding back. Her legs trembled, barely supporting her weight. Beside her, the German shepherd stood firm. The leash was taut. His body leaned forward. His eyes never left the man on the ground. The growl returned, lower now, deeper, not aggressive, victorious. Sirens wailed in the distance. The SEAL didn't look up. He didn't celebrate. He didn't taunt the man beneath him. He simply held him there, unmoving, protecting everyone around him until flashing lights filled the park and police rushed in. When officers recognized the uniform, everything shifted. "Yes, sir. We've got him." The crime boss's son was pulled to his feet, handcuffed, screaming threats and family names, promising consequences that no longer mattered. Cameras captured everything. His fall, his humiliation, the moment power abandoned him. As officers secured the area, one approached the SEAL. "Everyone okay?" He nodded once. "They are," he said, glancing back at the veterinarian and her dog. Her voice finally returned. "Thank you," she whispered, raw with emotion. "You saved us." The SEAL didn't answer. Instead, he knelt in front of the German shepherd and offered his hand. The dog sniffed it, calm now. "Good dog," the SEAL said softly. "You were ready." The veterinarian smiled through her tears. Her heart slowed, and in that moment, she understood something she would never forget. True strength is quiet. Real protection doesn't announce itself. It simply stands firm when evil shows its face. Most people would remember the weapon, the speed, the drama. But she would remember something else. The silent courage of a man who didn't need recognition, and the lesson a crime boss's son learned far too late. Some protectors walk among us unseen, until the moment they are needed most. This story has touched millions of hearts. If it touched yours, let us know with a like. Comment yes and subscribe or follow for more powerful stories like this.